Speed Egypt tour sparks Black history argument. Look, y'all. Speed in Egypt asks why the pyramids' noses are gone. You know what I'm saying? I've been wanting to know this question as well. There's a lot of different theories, a lot of different, you know what I'm saying, things being thrown around. We got to know the facts, y'all. What do y'all think is the reason why noses is gone? Comment it down below. But let's go ahead and check this out, y'all. Look, on the road to 100,000. Wow, we almost hit 97,000. So hit that sub button if you're new. Check it out.
Wow. The Sphinx.
That is crazy though, bro.
Let's get a shot.
Look how huge it is.
Wait, what happened to her nose?
It look like it ain't got no lips either.
What happened to her nose? Why is her nose cut off? Did it fall off, chat?
Everyone ask me when you just come here why Sphinx is without nose. It's famous from Egypt and some countries. Who broke a nose? The history of man Makrizi from Islamic era. Right inside his book and say, a man his name Sa'im al-Dahr do this. But why? Why Sa'im al-Dahr do this? Because he won't be proof. For some people, it is just a statue, just stone, not God. For this, he just broke a nose and say, he can protect himself. What he do, he just a stone.
Oh, so you're trying to prove that the statue is not a god.
Not a God.
So he broke the
That he
nose.
can't defend himself.
Sphinx is a one piece, but two parts. Body, lion head is human, but not normal human. It's royal human. And we think this is the face of King Khafre.
Wait, I have a question. Why
What
is
y'all
his
think,
nose
y'all?
gone?
We have two reasons. The first one, because the erosion factors. This is the weakness point of the statue. Because the erosion factors, it's broken. And maybe the second reason, because after this king tried to broke his nose to be the strongest.
Oh. So it's the ego thing, huh?
Yes.
Everybody coming with different reasons, bruh. I'm telling y'all, we all got different reasons.
What if I told you the biggest cover-up in history wasn't in a book? It's right in front of your eyes, because every time you've seen an Egyptian statue, a pharaoh, a queen, a god, the nose is gone, the lips are gone, the
I knew I wasn't
features that
tripping.
tell
I
you
thought
who
the
they
lips was
were,
gone.
and yet the crowns are fine, the hieroglyphs are fine, the stone is fine. So tell me, how does time destroy black features but spare everything else?
That's the thing, though. Out of all the parts of the face, out of all the parts of the statue, why the nose and why the lips? You know what I'm saying? We could have knocked a chunk of his head off. You know what I'm saying? We could have the little thing at the bottom. We could have knocked that off. Like, come on, y'all.
They
Come on,
say
y'all.
it's erosion. Nah, it's erasure.
Nah.
Because those faces look too familiar. Those kings and queens didn't look like the conquerors who came later. They looked like us. Broad noses, full lips, brown skin painted right onto
Bro, that
the
was the
stone.
worst AI
And
video.
that terrified the people who came after them. So when invaders rolled in, Persians, Greeks, Romans, later Europeans, they didn't just steal Egypt's gold, they stole its identity. They took hammers to faces that proved civilization was built by Africans. They broke the proof so they could rewrite the story. This wasn't vandalism, it was policy. They wanted to bury a truth that would blow up their whole narrative, that Africa wasn't a place of poverty, but the birthplace of power. You can still see it in the marble dust. Clean chisel cuts right through the nostrils, every single time. Not random, not weather. Intent. 1,000 years of colonizers taking the same swing, trying to make sure the world forgot that the first kings didn't come from Greece or Rome. They came from the Nile. And here's the punchline. It didn't work, because under the cracks, the evidence is still there. The hair on the mummies, the pigment on the walls, the DNA in the bones. You can smash a nose, but you can't erase the
that.
truth. The builders of Egypt were black. When the Greeks and Romans marched into Egypt, they didn't just find temples, they found proof that the people they called barbarians had already mastered everything they were still learning. The invaders couldn't match the engineering, They couldn't decode the medicine. They couldn't believe that the pyramids and libraries were the work of dark-skinned Africans who worshipped, wrote, and ruled long before Europe even had a word for civilization. So they did what insecure conquerors always do. They rewrote the story. They took the gods, renamed them, and painted themselves into the legend. They ordered their sculptors to copy the pharaoh's crowns, the headdresses, the posture, but not the faces, because those faces told the truth. The first step in rewriting history isn't changing the words, it's changing the image. Once the Greeks ruled through the Ptolemies, and later when the Romans took over, they funded new sculptures with European features, narrow noses, thinner lips, lighter
That's
stone.
wild, y'all.
They plastered their versions of Egyptian beauty on top of the originals. It was ancient propaganda. Centuries later, European explorers dug up the broken statues and called it discovery. But they didn't just record what they saw, they interpreted it to fit their story. When Napoleon's men marched into Egypt in 1798, they cataloged every artifact, every wall, every
Negroid,
carving.
Negroid features is wild. Negroid.
They knew the truth immediately. Some even wrote that the faces were Negroid, but those reports, quietly buried,
never heard of
the
the word
ones that made
Negroid.
it into textbooks, the ones that sanitized Africa out of Egypt entirely. That's
I
why
swear
in
we be
every
seeing these
museum
statues all the
today,
time.
you see rows of broken faces, neatly labeled weathered by time. But ask any sculptor, ask any restorer, the breaks aren't random, they're deliberate. The chisel marks are clean, right where the nostrils meet the cheek. It's not erosion, it's extermination of evidence, of memory, of identity. And they did it because they were afraid of the day the world would connect the dots and realize the same Africa they called primitive built the foundation of their entire civilization. Fast forward to the 1800s, colonial Europe is in full swing, building empires, enslaving nations, stealing everything that wasn't nailed down. They looted tombs, shipped the statues back to London, Paris, and Berlin, and lined them up in glass cases. And once again, they lied. They looked at brown paint on the statues and called it symbolic. They looked at tightly coiled hair on mummies and called it a trick of preservation. They found Nubian artifacts in royal tombs and labeled them foreign imports. Every piece of evidence screamed African, but the narrative whispered Mediterranean. They couldn't let the world see that Africa was the mother of knowledge, that Egypt was the child of Nubia, that civilization flowed north from the Nile, not south from Greece. So they made Egypt white. They published books showing pale-skinned pharaohs ruling under the desert sun. They hired painters to restore ancient art by lightening the skin tones. They built entire museum wings celebrating Western discovery, while the original builders were written out of the story. Even the word Egyptologist became a badge of ownership, a way for outsiders to claim authority over a culture they barely understood. They weren't uncovering history, they were repackaging it. And here's the irony. The artifacts they used to push that lie are now the same artifacts exposing them. Modern technology, DNA analysis, pigment scans, forensic reconstruction, is bringing the truth back to life. Every test, every reconstruction, every data point points south. Sudan, Nubia, Kush. The ancestral root of Egypt's greatness was African to its core. So when you walk through those museums today and stare at rows of faceless statues, don't just see broken stone, see the evidence of a centuries-long cover-up. Because those missing noses aren't accidents, they're confessions. In ancient Egypt, the face wasn't just decoration, it was divine technology. The Egyptians believed breath was life, and the nose was the gateway to that life. When the gods created humanity, they breathed spirit through the nostrils. So when you see a nose smashed off a statue, it wasn't vandalism, it was execution. It was how conquerors killed a god twice, once in spirit, once in memory. Every broken nose was a ritual act of domination. To them, a statue with a full face still lived. It still carried the presence of the person it represented. Destroying the nose meant stealing its breath, silencing its spirit. But what made this violence even more symbolic was whose faces were being silenced. Because the features they attacked weren't random, they targeted the ones that made those statues undeniably African. Wide nostrils, full lips, rounded cheeks.
Bro, I don't know
You
why,
can
but this reminds me of Michael Jackson, bro. It's got me thinking about Michael. Everything that's being said about these statues is literally, you know what I'm saying, the lightness of the skin. You know what I'm saying? The nose, the change of the nose. You feel me? I don't know. What y'all think, bro? What y'all
see the
think?
precision in the chiseling. The blow always aimed right between the nostrils, or across the bridge, designed to erase the most distinct marker of African identity. Even the great Sphinx of Giza, once bearing a proud, unmistakably African face, wasn't spared. Early sketches and Arab historians describe its nose long before Napoleon's cannons and British explorers ever arrived. But by the time Western expeditions took their official photographs, the face was already mutilated. The story changed again. It was the wind, it was erosion, it was time, convenient excuses that repeated like a mantra, generation after generation. But think about it. The Sphinx is carved from solid limestone, its body exposed to the same winds, same sand, same centuries. The body's still intact. The nose is gone. Coincidence? Not
That's
a
what I'm saying,
chance.
bro.
They didn't just destroy stone. They destroyed connection between Africa and its descendants, between power and its original source. Because a full, unbroken African face staring proudly from the sands of Giza would have shattered their entire narrative of racial hierarchy. When the conquerors looked up at those statues, they saw themselves reflected nowhere. No pale skin, no straight noses, no thin lips. They saw a history that didn't belong to them, and they couldn't stand it. So they did what weak men always do when confronted by truth. They destroyed what they couldn't compete with. They left the crowns because they loved the idea of empire. They left the bodies because they admired the power. But they broke the faces because they hated the reminder that Africa was first. That's the cruel poetry of it. The most recognizable part of the human body.
So IShowSpeed is currently in Egypt, and he went to the museum and he asked a question. He asked, why do all the statues have their noses broken? They have their noses broken because when the Europeans arrived and they found the civilization, they actually broke the very African-looking noses. They broke the noses. So if you look at a lot of the statues, they have their noses broken because the noses were typically African noses, and they broke the noses. And IShowSpeed asked, why do they have their noses broken?
Speed out here
And
asking all the right
the
questions,
curator
y'all.
was stumbling, and she said, oh, it's because it's the area of weakness. And then the second reason is when the Europeans arrived, they broke the noses to erase African history, because it's all in the nose, isn't it? They broke them. They broke the noses in the hope that it will never be discovered that they were actually African. And actually, if you look at the Egyptian history, the 23rd and the 24th dynasty is never really recorded because they were Nubian. The kings were Nubian. The pharaohs were actually Nubian. They were so black. And the other thing they don't talk about is about the Sudanese, the Sudanese pyramids. Nobody ever talks about the Sudanese pyramids. And because this is something that is not meant to be advanced when it comes to Africans.
Wake up, y'all, Egypt, of spreading false narratives. This is what Speeds Chet had to say about the broken nose of the great Sphinx.
Why miss her nose? Why is her nose cut off?
Somebody
Did
said
it fall
bomba
off,
clot.
Everyone asking me, just coming here, why Sphinx is without nose. It's famous from Egypt and some countries. Who broke a nose?
Hold on, Speed is streaming on Twitch as well. I didn't know that.
From Islamic era. Right inside his book and say, A man is named
I did not know that, y'all.
Sa'im al-Dahr do this. But why? Why Sa'im al-Dahr do this? Because he won't be proof. For some people, it is just a statue.
Because she's black.
Just stood, not
Because
God.
she was black.
For this, he just broke a nose.
Michael
and said,
Jackson, bro. I knew I wasn't the only one.
himself. What he do? He just stood.
Oh, so you're trying to prove that the statue was not a god.
Not a God.
So he
She's
broke the
black.
nose.
Sphinx is a one piece. One piece. But two parts. But his lion, it is human, but not normal human. It's royal human. And we think this is the face of King Khafre, the owner of the second pyramid. The length of statue is 72 meters, height is 20 meters. For this is a big antique for also.
Wow, okay. Makes sense. Why is his nose gone?
We have two reasons. The first one, because the erosion factors. This is the weakness point of the statue.
Knows exactly what he's doing. Bravo, Speed. Sometimes you have to fake earnest interest in order to get someone to show their ass. He just wanted to see if she was going to tell the truth. The odds that she would were slim, but still, I like the plausible deniability
Speed's
of it
actually
all.
super smart,
Good job.
y'all.
So great news, he found another piece of evidence towards the amazing restorative work that's done by the Egyptian antiquities and by the departments of Egyptology worldwide. So this is Pharaoh Sebekenkhaf of the 17th dynasty. And what's really interesting about the 17th dynasty is that many people believe that the 17th and the 18th dynasty are actually the same dynasty, so we shouldn't even have an 18th dynasty. But this is Pharaoh Sebekenkhaf, and I was always drawn to this particular statue. That picture in the top left, that's actually my own picture when I was at the British Museum where this is housed. And the reason I was drawn to this statue is because I noted that even though the nose had been knocked off, it was actually a really broad nose. And I just found that really interesting. And it always kind of struck me as being a
You can
little
tell
bit
it
suspicious.
is very
Well,
wide.
fast forward about a decade, and it turns out that my suspicions were well founded because a friend of mine sent me a photo of this very statue that was taken in the late 19th century. And tell me what you think of this.
Oh.
Yes, it turns out, if you didn't notice, that the restorers have been at it again, and actually,
Bro, we
when they
can't see it,
found
dog.
the statue in the late 19th century, it had a very full nose, and even the beard was intact, but they couldn't let that survive. I wonder why. I mean, needless to say, I looked at the nose and I thought, where have I seen a nose like that before? And for those of you out there who are going to claim the conspiracy theory, yes, they are exactly the same statue.
They are.
So, not like we did it anyway, but there is conclusive
Kinda like my nose a little bit, huh?
that they
Kinda
found
like my nose,
statues
y'all.
intact, and they reduced them to what you see
Kinda-
below and what you see in the British Museum today, simply because they didn't like
That's
the
probably my
pictures that they
great,
had to
great,
look
great,
at.
great ancestor.
Have you ever
right there,
wondered
y'all.
why so many Egyptian statues and monuments are missing their noses? This isn't random damage, it's ritual erasure. In ancient culture, the nose symbolized identity, life force, and lineage. By chipping off the nose, colonizers weren't just defacing stone, they were erasing the image of people who once built pyramids, aligned stars, and created technology that still stuns modern engineers. Because if you knew who built them, you'd remember what you're capable of. You'd realize you are not small. You are a descendant of creators. This is why remembering your history isn't nostalgia, it's power. When you reclaim your story, you reclaim your ability to build, innovate, and create miracles again. You are the living pyramid. You are the hidden technology. The past isn't just a museum, it's a blueprint to activate your now. Comment remember below to get my guide on unlocking your own ancient codes and building your future from that power.
Hold it then. Okay. So if the nose is missing on the Sphinxes, okay, definitely this is, a trial of the other religious people came after, like not related to the ancient Egyptian religion. Could be Christian, could be Muslim. Okay, just to deface the face, to send the message for the others. If seriously a god, he should protect his nose. So this is they consider it as a pagan statues. If a statue, standing position of statues like this, okay, and no nose, this is, if any tensions happen, so could be the easiest way to damage that statue. I mean, they push the statue, and the first thing catch the ground or hit the ground is the nose. That's why. But there is another opinion, and that's what you are interesting, okay, to her. Some scholars are saying maybe because the creator of that civilization, they were Africans, and the most prominent organ for African features is the nose. So they tried, you know, the high, okay, you know, that's you are looking for that opinion, right? Yeah. So that nose, okay, they removed the nose, just the high, okay, could be Africans did a great civilization like this. And this is, you know, and they try, okay, to prove that through different statues in Egyptian museum or in other part of Egypt to prove that theory. But in a way, could be true because in a way, Egypt is a part of Africa. And I told you, Egypt before Middle Kingdom, they were pure Egyptian Africans, okay? And I would like to say something. Egyptians, the origin of the Egyptians, they are Bedouins, came from wherever in Egypt. You know, because this desert in Egypt, for example, it was, you know, greeny, like savanna. How I know is because we found graffiti. For early Egyptians had used to live in the desert, okay? And they had used to gather the food, hunting the animal, and living in the caves. And we found that caves with their own graffiti. So that graffiti demonstrate animals like giraffe, like a lion, like deers. That thing's no way you could find, okay, without savanna. So it means the desert, one day it was a savanna, jungle. So what happened? Climate changed. So which is welfare on that place? No anymore. So started to not escape, like immigration. Yeah, started to migrate. Okay, and they found the Nile and went down to the Nile, and they started, you know, to live on the both banks of the Nile, and they started to get a stable life. So it means the origin of Egyptians not relate to this land more than they came from wherever in Africa. Could be from the west, from the south, from the east. That's why if you give a look to the Egyptians now, they are every features you could see. So go to the south, features like you, exactly like you particularly. Okay, if go to deeper south, oh, really?
That's just why they chopped those noses off of the pharaoh and the Sphinx in Egypt in the first place, is because without this nose, we can tell you this is whoever it is. But with that nigga nose, it can only be niggas. Why would somebody vandalize a whole face and only vandalize one part?
One part of it. Facts.
Nobody wanted to knock an eye off, or take an ear off.
Come on now.
No chins missing. No, just the nose.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Bro, y'all, literally all the noses, bro, are gone. In the small, like every piece, bro. Every one of them. Nah, that's crazy, bro. That's crazy, dog. Look, man, comment down below y'all thoughts. How do y'all feel about the Egypt stream, man? I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna be all the way honest. I wasn't really feeling the Egypt stream, bro. I wasn't really feeling the Egypt stream. Like the whole energy was just different from the other streams, like Ethiopia, Kenya, yeah, Eswatini. You know what I'm saying? Botswana. All these streams, like this one just felt the energy just wasn't there, bro. The energy it didn't feel the same, bro. It didn't feel the same. Let me know what you guys think, man. What do you guys also think about the noses, man? Why do you think all these noses is off of these statue? You know what I'm saying? Let me know in the comment section below. Hope you guys do my reaction, my commentary. Almost at 97,000, man. On the road to 100,000. Wow. Stay tuned for next one, y'all. Peace.